Hello, this is Gilgamesh. I wanted to talk about the whole Epstein files and what's going on, the fallout for Donald Trump. Okay, when Trump ran for president, the biggest, stupidest thing he did was run his mouth that we're going to release the Epstein files. This is what screwed him. In every way, he screwed himself. Because if he had never said anything about the Epstein shit, people were going to vote for him. He was going to always, if you go by the vote, was going to win because of the fucking Kamala Harris was a terrible choice for the Democrats. But as I know, who really puts the president in, it's Palantir runs the country. Yeah, hell, they run the world. Here's the thing. They're willing to let Trump fall because who's his vice president? Who they kept away from Trump and this whole Epstein shit is J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, he's the right guy. That's what they're doing. They put Vance in as VP so that they can sacrifice Donald Trump. And the MAGA, they hate MAGA. Understand this, for all the MAGA people, Donald Trump was never your savior. It's like the Tea Party. Here's the thing. Is that Pam Bondi has been a disaster from the beginning. I call her Stripperella for a reason. She's more like a stripper than anything. See, go back to Epstein's deal. Who made this deal? Who was the one that pushed this deal? It wasn't Bill Barr. It was the CIA, Palantir. They told, okay, you're going to make this deal. And Pam Bondi told Bill Barr, this is the deal. Nobody else gets prosecuted. Nobody, his clients or, anybody who, Ghislaine Maxwell, all of them will be unable to be prosecuted. And Epstein took this deal to protect Ghislaine Maxwell and his clients, like Donald Trump, from being prosecuted ever. And so, yeah. And so that's the thing, is that Pam Bondi, that's why the binder thing was a complete joke, and you had Jack Posobiec and Libs of Stupid. They both holding those goddamn binders up. What a joke those two idiots have become. And so then Pam Bondi, Cash Patel can't tell the truth. They say, we've seen him and, Dan Bongino both lied their ass off saying, we've seen the sex tapes of child... They were literally talking about watching... Dan Bongino literally said, we watched the tapes. Of what? The child pornography that he made? Ew. Yeah, and what was in this is not as damning as the ledger that has just the clients from his apartment and I think from his, where he sex trafficked, the one he got from the CIA. And yes, he still had a hedge fund. He was still doing while he worked for the CIA as an arms dealer and money launderer. That's when he left Bear Stearns in '81 because they realized he was they had to cut ties with him due to his whole wanting to have sex with underage girls. So he started his own hedge fund, which was still going. Yep, that's right. Even when he bought the island, he still had that going. So that's how he meets a lot of Hollywood and everything. And Donald Trump is through his hedge fund company. Yep, while he's working for the CIA. This is how he meets world leaders. Yeah. And the sex trafficking stuff is all done by the CIA. Yeah. You have P. Diddy. It's all connected to the CIA. People, they run Hollywood. They are the propagandists. They're the ones that push the DEI. Hollywood doesn't think for itself. It's all run by the CIA, the State Department, all that shit. Palantir runs all of it. They are the government. Trump is just a little puppet. I keep trying to tell people this. Nobody wants to listen. So yes, the Epstein files are kind of damning to people who, after his conviction, not everybody knew that most people didn't know he was even tried for sex trafficking or was convicted till much later. But there's plenty of people that knew, like Bill Clinton, his wife. His wife, I think, like I've said before, was a CIA lawyer. And the reason Hillary Clinton's never been prosecuted, she knows the men. She has the proof on a lot of these people that were having sex with Epstein. Yeah. Children, girls that Epstein trafficked. Keeps you out of prison. That's why Hillary Clinton can't be prosecuted because, she was friends with Donald Trump, morons. She knew about Trump and Epstein. How do you think Bill Clinton got hooked up with Epstein? When you're friends with a guy like Donald Trump, Yeah. So Trump was right about Michael Jackson. I'll say it again, that he didn't fucking have sex with little boys. It's because Michael wasn't into kids. But Trump was, like a lot of people. And yes, a lot of people before he was doing the sex trafficking were partying with him in the early 80s. Yes, because he wasn't a sex trafficker till later 80s or so, you know. But in the early 80s, he was just a Wall Street guy, yeah. And that's why a lot of people hear about the parties, there were no children involved because he hadn't gotten to that yet. He hadn't gotten to the point where he could have the ability to sex traffic girls and stuff, yeah. So, yeah, and then of course, there's his ranch in New Mexico they didn't raid, even though apparently one of the guys that owns the ranch, including his former pilot who flew his Lolita Express, have said, hey, why don't you come and look at this? There might be bodies buried on here. Yeah. And so, yeah. I was watching Redacted talk about that. Epstein was a CIA agent. He wasn't Mossad. That was Maxwell and her father. He worked for the CIA people. The CIA are the human traffickers, drug traffickers. Yeah. Children are killed. They're eaten. This cannibal shit does go on. Yeah. So Trump, and after Pam Bondi and Trump defended her, oh my God. This guy is so dumb. I said Trump is not the brightest man in the world. The thing is, Palantir's going to let Trump fall. The midterms are coming. He's going to lose them. Democrats are running on this, calling this the Epstein administration. Of course, when Thomas Massie said that, ABC had to kind of walk it back because they don't want to get sued again. But it is the Epstein administration. They promised to release it, and they're destroying evidence and covering up because, in Trump, you're not exonerated on shit, motherfucker. You're not exonerated at all. The fact that and I'm not a big fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she was one of the biggest Trump supporters going back to the 2020 election. She stood by Trump even when Ted Cruz and others threw him under the bus and said, okay, we need to prevent him from trying to steal, saying that he was trying to overthrow the election and everything. And she was the biggest supporter of Donald Trump, and then he threw in the bus when she said, hey, we need to release that, we need the Epstein, we need the clients, we need people prosecuted. Nobody's going to get prosecuted in this country. But now Republicans are starting to distance themselves from Trump. They don't want, like I said, Massey's a conservative. He's a true Republican. And he basically called it, he's right, and Republicans are starting to realize they've got to walk away from Donald Trump. And a lot of them don't want to go to war they don't want this war with Iran. Even Republicans are realizing a war with Iran's a bad idea when you're having a midterm election when you promised you weren't going to go to war. Oh yeah, they're going to attack Iran. It's going to be disastrous. And Trump's going to be embarrassed again, like he usually is. But they don't care. Palantir doesn't care if Trump goes down in flames. They've already got the replacement, and they've kept him away from Trump on this. Because think about it. Vance went to Armenia and laid a wreath to recognize the Armenian genocide. He did that, not Trump. J.D. Vance when he talks, what he doesn't talk about? He doesn't talk about fucking the Epstein shit. They're keeping him as far away from that because if Trump falls, which I believe doesn't matter what happens in the midterm, I think Trump, he might actually both parties might decide to impeach him out of office, which would put Vance in, which is what they want. Trump is just an scapegoat. Yes. Pam Bondi should be fired. She's terrible. And Barnes is right about that. Most of the people that supported Israel are turning on Israel. Yeah, Israel's losing support from even the staunch Zion. Like Robert Barnes used to defend Israel. You don't hear it now from him. I literally watched him talk about how nobody wants this war with Iran, except for, and get rid of Lindsey Graham. Get rid of all of them. But the problem is Marco Rubio is terrible at his job. He doesn't know shit. And though Trump is going to fall. The midterms are coming. He's going to lose. And he might be impeached out of office. You know who will be safe from that? Vance. And Vance will become the new president, get sworn in when Trump... And this is worse than Watergate. That's the fucking hilarious thing. This Epstein shit, the whole destroying evidence and not releasing what you claimed you were going to do. And the disaster. And saying that Pam Bondi did a great job. No, you douchebag. She failed. She looked like a child up there and attacked Thomas Massey, who said, hey, you didn't answer my question. She instead brought up about the economy. And Trump goes, well, she did bring up the economy has nothing to do with the Epstein shit. It's like, God, Trump, you're an idiot. So Trump might lose. And I'm not a Trump supporter, so I don't give two shits. And for all the MAGA, he's betrayed every one of you. He doesn't give a shit about you. He's used you. And I do mean this, Jeremy. I hope you watch this, Jeremy Prime. Trump was never your ally. He is selling you down the river. He's screwing the MAGA movement over. This was always Palantir's point of putting Trump back in. Do what they did at Tea Party. And they're destroying it from within, because if you're not noticing, the Epstein shit is going to destroy. This is the Epstein administration. Yeah, as Redacted asked, why didn't they raid the ranch, Epstein's ranch? Even Whitney Webb said this. They might have found stuff there. You want to know some of the people? Yeah, like Les Wexler. He was a financier. Epstein made money by Wall Street. He made money by his connections. And yes, he made a lot of money sex trafficking while he worked for the CIA. Just like P. Diddy, just like Oprah Winfrey, just like others. You know, they have their sex trafficking. They've already replaced Jeffrey Epstein. These people, what are pedophiles? People that are attracted to kids before they hit puberty, 5 to 12-year-olds. Once they hit puberty, they're not attracted to them. Now, Jimmy Savile was the weirdest case of someone who went from 5-year-old all the way to, 75? Yeah. And I guess apparently in Norway, they arrested a former prime minister for his connection to Jeffrey Epstein. They haven't charged him anything. He was just arrested. The hard thing is proving these people in a proving case against these people on the Epstein shit is going to be a lot harder than if they had the ledger of his clients. Now, that would definitely put people in prison. But as far as, trying to convict people on helping Epstein, being client, that might be a lot trickier. This does people. Why were you still talking to this guy? I'm not talking about like someone like Chris Tucker. I'm talking about politicians. You knew he was convicted of sex trafficking. He accepted the deal. You still talk to the guy. You're still friends with him. Even Trump cut off any talking to Epstein after his conviction because he couldn't have that come back to him. So yeah, it never made any sense why people knowing he was convicted would still, like Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton. But Donald Trump did cut off. He never talked to Epstein after he had him turned in the police to protect himself. Yeah. That's why he had no problem being in the White House when Epstein was arrested. So yeah, this whole thing's going to bring Trump down. The Epstein thing is probably the one thing, and the attack in Iran will be Trump's undoing. You know what's funny? His team isn't even trying to end the war in Ukraine. That's actually, they're not. There's no deal. And Iran's never going to accept any deal where they give up any of their ability to defend themselves. Nope. And Israel won't survive. They're trying to create the Greater Israel. Attacking Iran will bring on the destruction of Israel. Almost didn't. It was terrible what happened. I mean, I didn't like when this whole 12-day war that happened between Iran and Israel. But don't get me wrong. I'm not defending Israel or Iran. They both hit each other, but Israel started it. And yeah, Iran, they went crazy and they attacked a military base in Qatar, which had nothing to do with what was, because it happened to be an American military base, but still, yeah. But now, I don't care what Iran does. If they get attacked, they have every right, and same with the Houthi, to absolutely eliminate Israel. So, I don't consider them Jews. They're heretics. They're evil. And, yeah. So, I just wanted to do that real quick. This is Gilgamesh. I'll talk to you later. Bye.